In this tutorial, we're going to take a look at the basic elements used to write in Markdown. I encourage you to actually write in Markdown rather than cutting and pasting from Word, as this will decrease time spent on your document while increasing your comfort level with Markdown. Markdown is a very simple syntax designed for writers whose work will ultimately be published to the web. It is designed with non-technical people in mind and borrows heavily from syntax you already use in some form with Word or other programs. Markdown significantly cuts the time spent in reworking documents for various formats, specifically HTML used for web. Markdown is written with a simple text editor, and you can use one that is already on your computer. For Mac users, you could use TextEdit, and for PC users, Notepad. Ensure that when saving a file that your file is in a .txt format and not in a .rtf format, as a .rtf actually retains unwanted formatting. A .txt file strips documents of any formatting, only giving the content meaning through simple syntax elements you include while you write. You can additionally use the .md format, which is the native Markdown format. While there are undoubtedly better software applications to use for writing in Markdown, like Byword, which is a great application for Mac users and also the application I use, for the purposes of this tutorial, we're going to use this free online editor from markable.in. This is great because this allows us to see what we're doing as we work. We've got a live display here, and we've got our syntax over here on the left. Okay, we're going to take a look at the following. We're going to take a look at headings, paragraphs, line breaks, bold or strong as well as emphasis, ordered and unordered lists, block quotes, and URLs, otherwise known as hyperlinks. These are the most common writing elements, and you'll find that with very little effort you'll have these mastered in no time. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. First thing we're looking at is headings. You'll notice over here our very first heading is writing with Markdown, and that's the first one that we had already in here. And the syntax for this is one hashtag, a space, and then whatever your heading is. And that basically tells Markdown that this is a level 1 heading, and it renders it over here as a little bit bigger heading, and that's just to give us an idea of what we're looking at. Okay, and you'll notice over here a level 2 would be 2 hashtags with a space and then the heading. Level 3, 3 hashtags, all the way down to level 6, which you very seldom use, but just so you can see how that works. And these have each been rendered slightly smaller just to kind of give an idea of what that would output. Okay, so those are headings. That's how we use those. We're going to get in a habit of leaving a line of space between elements. That helps define the elements and helps keep our document clean. Okay, we're going to take a look at paragraphs. I'm going to give you an example here of some paragraphs. And a paragraph is simply one or more consecutive lines of text separated by one or more blank lines. A blank line is any line that looks like a blank line, so this is a blank line right in here, containing nothing but spaces or tabs. Normal paragraphs should not be indented with spaces or tabs, so we haven't indented this. This starts right to the left. Okay. And we have a line of space up above, line of space below, and there's no other syntax. This is a paragraph, okay? We've left our space, we have another block of text here, and this is another paragraph. If you put a line break within any paragraph, it will be ignored just as it would in HTML. So let's look at an example. We hit return. You'll notice over here in our output that nothing has happened, okay? That's because just like in HTML, that's ignored. If we actually do want a line break, let's back that up and take a look at how that looks. Okay, we have the word HTML with a period. I'm going to leave 2 spaces. Then we hit return. And then you'll notice over here in our output that this actually swings down here to the next line. All right, we're going to take a look at some examples of strong or bold, as well as emphasized text. Okay, in bold text, we're going to take a look at that first. Bold text has 2 asterisks on either side. You'll see our output here is something that looks like bold text. Emphasized or italicized text has 1 asterisk on either side, and you can see the output there. And if you want to combine the 2 elements, you would have 3 asterisks on either side, and you can see that we have both bold and italicized, or strong and emphasized. Okay, we're going to take a look at some lists here. And we have 2 styles of lists. We have ordered lists and we have unordered lists. These are going to work very similar to how they would work in Word or another similar program. And we just start with a numbering and a period, space, and then our list item. We just kind of work our way down. You'll notice in this particular editor, just like in Word or something else, that when you hit return, you go down to the next line, and you can just keep going down like that. Okay, we're going to take a look at unordered lists. Let's type in our title here, unordered lists. And again, this works very much like Word. We're going to put a hyphen, a space, list item 1, list item 2, and you can see that this automatically throws in the next line, and so on and so forth. Okay, just as a note, in place of a hyphen here, if we wanted to, we could use an asterisk, and that works exactly the same way. You would put that in there, and a space, and your list item. So whatever you're more comfortable with. For this tutorial, we're just going to use hyphens. If you wanted to, we're not going to get into this here, but you could leave a line of space, and you could tab over or hit 4 spaces here, and you could actually have a nested list, just like you would in Word or another program. All right, we're going to take a look now at block quotes. And let's just look at an example here. Okay, in block quote, you'll notice the great thing about this editor, whether it's our lists or headings, things are kind of divided up by color, kind of gives us an idea of what we're looking at element-wise here. And then additionally, on this side, we have our output, so it makes it really easy to see if we're messing something up or if we're doing something that we shouldn't be. Block quotes here, this is a right-facing caret or an arrow, followed by a space, and then whatever our block quote is. If we want a block quote with 2 paragraphs, we simply go ahead and type our first paragraph after our caret and a space. When we leave a line of space, we have another caret or arrow with a space and our next line. We can just keep going on like that. You'll see our output is slightly indented text, and they've just chosen to render this with a slightly different font just to kind of show that this is a block quote. Okay, so that's block quotes. We're going to leave 2 lines of space there to kind of separate our elements. And the last thing we're going to look at are URLs or hyperlinks. Okay, so let's get our first example in there. I'm going to take a look at inline links. Okay, inline links, this would just be when you're typing and you go ahead and you would put your word in and you'd follow it with your hyperlink, okay? And so you've got the link or the word that you want linked in square brackets, so in this case it's Google, and we followed that with a URL in parentheses, okay? So there's no space in between those, we just put those 2 together. And you'll see the output over here is a clickable link, and this would go to Google. We've got a second style inline link here, and this is if you want the URL itself to show. This is really simple. You're just going to have these 2 carets and throw your URL in there. And you'll see over on this side that we have the actual clickable URL. Okay, the second style of link that we're going to look at is a reference style link. Okay, and let's throw in an example of reference style link. And this would be if you want to keep your page clean and you can place the word that you'd like linked in square brackets. So we've got Google again, and this is followed by a second set of square brackets with a number or a word. So in the case of Google, we've got the number 1, and this could be any number. And again, the syntax is really great over in this particular editor because this shows this in red, and this shows us that this is a reference style link, and this means we need to define this somewhere else in our document. And same with Yahoo, we've chosen a word here, square brackets followed by square brackets with the word Yahoo in it. And this could be any word that we want. And the last style, we have YouTube, that's in square brackets, it's followed by empty square brackets, and that just means that we're going to take the word just as it's written right here, and we're going to define that later on in our document. Okay, you'll notice here in our output that nothing's been rendered yet. These aren't clickable links, and that's just because we haven't actually referenced these anywhere in our document. So we need to define what these links actually are. So let's go ahead, and this would be, you can keep typing, you'd have some paragraphs, whatnot. And at the very end of your document, you've got your 1 defined. This is a square brackets, set of square brackets with the number 1 inside, a colon, space, and then your URL. Okay, you're going to go down to your next line, and Yahoo, square brackets, colon, space, and then your URL. And then YouTube for the word itself, it's the same thing. And that's just got the URL right after it. So now we've defined those. Our output here has actually rendered these as links. You can see that they're all clickable links. And that's how we deal with inline links as well as reference style links. Okay, there are many other elements to Markdown. Everything will build off this syntax, however. You can make nested lists, like I mentioned, nested block quotes, do proper footnoting, work with special characters, many other things just as you would in Word or another word processor. The great thing with Markdown is that you have control in giving your document meaning through simple syntax. Web developers don't receive the bloated and inaccurate HTML that Word spits out, and web developers don't have to try to interpret your document or do side-by-side comparison to make sure that they've rebuilt your document in HTML, that they understood your original intent. Okay, Markdown is a tool to reduce time spent on documents meant for web publishing, both between the writer and developer, and produce a format that can be exported cleanly to HTML or even back to Word if needed. And that's the end of the tutorial on the basics of Markdown.